We're coming to the end of the river season now, and since last time you saw me, we've had some really heavy downpour of rain, some really washed out water, and also followed by that, we had some serious snow. But what I'm walking down now is a little fox's trail, and this I found recently, and it has led me to the spot that I've wanted to be at. And since then, I've been introducing bait. I've managed to capture some really cool underwater footage, and also I've caught a couple of amazing carp to go with it, so stick around. So we left the last video with 2 fish from this sewer drain, and we were already in lockdown, so travel restrictions were in place, so things were quite difficult obviously to travel around and go fishing. So I decided to keep my attention on this little venue, and you know what, I've really enjoyed myself over the last few months because it's been a little bit of an adventure. You know, I knew nothing about this place before I stumbled across it on the first video, and now I'm a few more fish in, and I'm going to talk you through exactly what's happened over the last couple of months because yeah, it's been interesting. A couple of 100 yards down this bank is where I originally was fishing, and I'll go into a little bit more detail in a minute about why I've moved, but I carried on fishing this spot down there, and I was introducing that pink bait, if you remember from the last video, and over a couple of weeks I was coming down, putting a lot of bait in, and I was coming back within an hour or two after sticking it in, and the spot being totally polished, and I was a little bit headspun. I was like, what is going on? You know, these fish, they're obviously in lumber mode, they can't be eating that much bait, even though they do move around in packs. But I was starting to think that whilst I was away, birds were coming in and smashing the spot, but I'd never seen a single bit of bird life on the spot at all. So, you know, it was a little bit of a head spinner, like I said. So, shortly followed by that, we had a massive downpour of rain. Really murked up this river, and I've never seen it totally chocolate. So I left it alone for a week. Shortly followed was the downpour of the snow, which helped the water actually. It became a lot clearer after that for some reason, like gin clear. So I thought that was a good time to start coming down, introducing a bit more bait onto the spot, and something a bit more natural this time. Went for a more natural coloured bait, just in case the birds were having it, which I don't think they were. I just think these fish were smashing it as soon as I was putting it in, and they were gone by the time I was coming back. And that is the downside of having that swim up that bank, where I cut it out, because you can't move, you know. You're there, you've got to walk through the brambles straight to the end of the bank where your spot is, and if they're not there, you can't move on to them, you know. And that's not my type of fishing, you know. I like to chase them up and down the bank, but it is what it is, you know. You're coming through the allotments like last time, and there's one trail down to that spot, so you know you can't be picky, and if you want to catch these fish, that's what you got to do. So let's get back to the fishing. I carried on coming down every other day, introducing bait, and every day on the way home from work I was stopping just to check on the spot and keep it topped up, and hopefully fish are obviously visiting it, which they were on a frequent basis. You know, I'll get down there, be absolutely nothing left, so they were obviously there, but in the short time span that I was visiting it, I just wasn't bumping into them. So this was a little bit out of the ordinary for me. I had a few hours to play with one morning, and I haven't done it before. Come down and stuck a couple of rods on those spots, and waited for the fish to come in. So that was that plan this day, you know, to come down, get the rod set up, rigged up, and just drop them onto the spots, and then introduce the bait, and hopefully, you know, they're going to turn up in a big group. And that's what I'd done, and a couple of hours had passed with no joy whatsoever. And I remember sticking the drone up to get some cinematic footage, and as soon as I went over the spot, I see this carp coming along the middle, and I just can remember that this fish was a lot bigger than anything that I'd seen previous. So as you can imagine, I was starting to get a little bit carried away. I was starting to lose my head, so I decided just to leave that drone above my spot. It obviously hadn't spooked from it, so I just left it there, and hopefully I could get a take on camera. And he came in on his own, this big one. He's like, I've named him the Big Ugly One, you know. He's certainly a bit of a character. And he's come in, polished off both my spots on his own, done me twice on my rig, and then disappeared. And I couldn't believe it, you know. Like, I've been putting in this much effort coming down here all the time, and I hadn't had a fish for a while. And I just realised that there's a fish in here a lot bigger. So, you know, I was starting to get a little bit more excited. So as you can imagine, the next morning I had no problems getting out of bed, and I was straight down here, and I really wanted to catch that big one. And same game plan as the day before, but on a tighter time scale. And they turned up again, but this time he was accompanied by one other, like a long, half linear sort of dark scaly mirror. It was a really nice one, and he beat him to the rig this time. And yeah, it was an absolutely lovely fish, another wild one. So yeah, take a look at this. Yeah, call you back. Bye. That was the most mental take. I literally walked to my
my other spot for 2 seconds. And this one must have literally come straight in and just had it. Yes. Unfortunately, that is the smaller one out of the two. And just as I was playing that, the big one's just come out. This is the smaller one out of the two. The other one's probably twice the size of this, and I really need to catch that. I thought it was the same fish as I caught in the previous episode, but it wasn't. The more I looked at it in the water, it wasn't the same fish, and it's slightly bigger. But yeah, look at this. This fish is from this tiny little river in February, just after that real cold spell that we've been having. You can't get better than that. Really nice looking fish. Rattled off as well, so quickly show you the other side and we'll get her back. Well, it's worth a look both sides. Look at that. Just as nice. And I'm really hoping we can catch another one out of there. Like I said, the other one that it was with was twice the size of this, so keep a bit of bait going in and we'll hopefully get one. Nice. Right.
I'm going to talk to you about rigs really quickly. I've learned a lot from this river because it's been so shallow and I can see everything that's going on, and because the fish are so lethargic, what I've learned is they're coming in, and because they're so close to the bottom, they're picking up the hook bait, but they're not swimming off as they're eating. They're just sitting there, you know, look, literally taking it whilst they're sitting on the bottom. And because they're not moving off, the hook link's not tightening up, which isn't resulting in you know, them hitting the lead and driving that hook home. So what I have gone for now is a withy pull on such a small hook link, such a short hook link, but using the most supple braid I can get away with. And every single time I've seen them suck that in, they've been nailed now. And I've continued to use it through the winter on various venues, and you know, I've done really well from it, fishing it in solid bags as well, and you know, it's something that I'm going to continue to use, especially through the winter. So bear that in mind when you're fishing next winter. These fish are so lethargic, sometimes they're just sitting on the bottom and they're not moving off whatsoever when they're eating. So short and supple hook links have definitely been a way forward for me on this campaign. I started to put the drone up a little bit more just to see if the fish were moving up and down the river or if they're staying in one spot. And I started to notice that the big one, the ugly one, which I've named it, was liking this half of the river. 200 yards up here, he was always there, sitting against the current, just obviously taking the few rays that we were getting at this time of year. And I just knew that I needed to get up to this spot. So coming through the allotments, like I said, there's only really one way down to the other area, which took a lot of effort for me to cut out a swim. But I wasn't going to let it stop me. A lot of things don't stop me in my angling, and if there's something in my way, I will normally cut through it or get through it in one way or another. So I went exploring, and I found a way through the marshes, over this little ditch, through this little fox's trail. And you know, when I came to this spot at first, it was just so cool, so carpy, you know, like down there it's an old rustic bridge, and as soon as I turned up to it, I see these carp just sitting up underneath, just keeping safe. And I knew as soon as I found this spot that I could catch them a lot quicker than down there. This is obviously their holding area. There's a few snags around up here, and this is where they like to hang out. So when I turned up on this session, I saw him down there in the flow, and I knew I had to run back to the van really quickly and go and get my sawn off out of the car. Had a little bit of bread in there as well, and this was actually my first one that I managed this year on a bit of slow sinking bread, stalked out the river. It was such a fun way of catching him. You know, he knew what it was. He's not stupid. He knew what it was. But you know, after getting that absolute perfect drop right on his nose, he did take it in the end. And yeah, I was so pleased to catch the big ugly one. So yeah, check him out. He's a proper character.
Yeah, we got ya. Yeah, we do. We got you, big gal. Well, over the last couple of days, I've come a little bit obsessed with catching this big one that I've seen on the drone out the river. And this morning I've turned up at the spot thinking it's going to be there after I caught his mate yesterday, and he's just been nowhere to be seen. So I've ventured around and managed to get through so much growth. It's like literally it's all a sewer around here, and we managed to get down to the spot where I keep seeing him, and I got him. Absolutely buzzed. He's just resting now underneath this bridge, and we'll get him out and show you. He's a proper dumpy old thing. I reckon it must be around 20 pound, so a proper good one for a little sewer drain. I mean, lovely. What a cool little spot this place is, right underneath this old rustic bridge, and got fish like this living in a tiny little river. What you see behind me, definitely the biggest one I've seen so far. So let's get her out, let's have a look. Whoa, look at that. Oh. Oh, that is the most leeches I've ever seen on a carp. Well, I've never seen a fish with so many parasites on it. I've got them all over me now because there's so many of them. He must have surely been sitting up in that weed all winter, and he's only just come alive the last couple of days. And he's surely caught my eye. He's definitely the biggest fish I've seen in here so far. He's around, he's definitely around 20 pound. Short, dumpy old thing. I've been watching him on the drone, and he looks massive in this sewer. He looks huge, up really broad shoulders, and yeah, he's been a frequent visitor to my baited spot. I can see it. It's all coming out the back end of him at the moment. It's so cool to have a few river carp under my belt in winter. Here's the other side of this dumpy old mirror. Really, really cool. Like I said, it's so much fun to be catching wild river carp in the winter. As you're probably noticing, I'm in the t-shirt. It's just the first day what feels like spring. It's the 20th of February today. It's a week after we had that horrendous snow, and the fish are just starting to come alive. Thank you. Cool. Let's get that back. February river carp. You'll all probably agree, you can see that those fish have been so dormant, can't you? You can see how much they've been sitting up. I have never seen that many leeches stuck to one part of a fish's body. I was blown away by that, you know. He obviously was sitting up a lot of his time, and he was just starting to wake up, and thankfully I managed to catch him just at that point. So, you know, it's another one to the tally of fish out this drain, and you know, I'm starting to stack them up now, but I wasn't finished there. You know, I had to keep coming down and putting out bait, and like I said to you, they were clearing me off so quickly, and I just knew it couldn't have been those couple of fish all the time just clearing me out like that. You know, at one point I come down here and put 5 kilo out, and the next morning it's totally gone. It couldn't be those 2 fish, you know, not in winter, not when they're feeding in the way that I've seen them. So I had a load of particles stacked up in my freezer from last year, so I got that out because I thought it's a lot of smaller items, and hopefully that will keep them on the spot a lot longer. So introducing a lot of tigers, a lot of maize, a lot of hemp onto the spot, and instead of fishing for them, I've been coming down and trying to get some amazing footage, you know, purposely leaving my gear in the van just to make sure that I'm not fishing for him, and bringing my GoPro attached to my bushwhacker pole and sticking it underneath the water and getting some footage of some incredible carp. And like I said, I knew it wasn't just 1 or 2 fish visiting that. There was a lot more when I went down there that morning. There was about 8 of them, and I should have brought the rod there, but you know, it was just lovely to see them just doing their own thing, polishing off my spot, and just, you know, not really a care in the world. And sometimes as anglers, we just got to sit back and admire what they actually do.